Okay. So I used these consequences and reinforcements to write her plan. So first off, let me tell you what her goals are. Her behavior goals are Zoe will reduce her behaviors from an average of 8 per week to 1 by the end of the school year, as measured by a frequency count. And Zoe will comply with a request when asked the first time in less than 5 seconds. So, to do that, to get her there, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to help her control her anxiety and prevent triggers. Mrs. Mills is going to review any topics coming up during a lesson at check-in time. So Zoe's going to have a check-in and out sheet in and out of the classroom and in between her specials teachers. Okay? So anything that's going to be coming up during that block, she'll know about. If there's changes, she'll be informed. Another thing is that Mrs. Mills is going to make sure she's building in some yoga and breathing brain breaks for the whole class, mid-lesson or at transition points, to give Zoe those times when she can kind of decompress and refocus before we're moving on. And these are really effective ways for her to also reduce her anxiety. And she likes them. So, and she can also pick the break each day to help her feel a sense of control and ownership in the classroom. Zoe will be given a notice to any changes in her daily schedule, and this has been communicated to all of her teachers, and they've agreed when she checks into their room to let her know if something's going to be different. So if she's expecting to do clay and art, and it doesn't happen, she needs to know before she comes in the door. She's pretty great as long as she knows something will change. So the way they're going to indicate positive is with a plus sign, negative with a minus sign. So, and a negative would indicate a prolonged episode of defiance where she couldn't bring it back, or an outburst that she just couldn't calm down from. And then Mrs. Mills and Mrs. Raza will use the check-in sheet for major class transitions in and out of the room, like I said. So the way it'll work is for every positive, she gets to tally 2 minutes of extra art, and she also gets a point in her point system in the classroom.
Now, does she get points for in and out, or is it just for out?
So like coming into the classroom for her morning block, and then going out plus. So in positive, out positive, and the in is mostly like, I wouldn't think that in would be negative if she were already fuming from another room and then also couldn't bring it back when she checked in. Then it would be a negative, like if she's not willing to talk it through. So 2 positives, and then she'd get a little 2 for that. So at the end of the week, she can cash in, no, is it 2? Let me see here what we wrote. So we'll be rewarded with 2 extra minutes of art or recess. She's going to keep track of her tallies on her desk. And so it's actually 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes per check in and out. So each one of these slots. So she can check those, cash those in at the end of the week. And that seems like a lot, but in the beginning, she's probably not going to get every single one positive. So we can knock that down a bit as she does a little better. But every positive thing that she does, when she regulates her emotions, when she can pull back and stop the defiance and get right back to work, follow directions, anytime she can do something positive to show that she's trying to use her strategies, she gets a point. So.
And that's using the classroom point system.
Yeah, the token system that Mrs. Mills has. So she can cash in her time that she's earned from her tally chart each Friday afternoon during independent work time, as long as her classroom assignments have been completed.
So when I meet with the specialist teachers, what is that going to look like then if she doesn't do well in their class? How do you want them to document that?
So basically what they would do is their art or music and their name here, and then they do a little negative, and then there's some space here and off to the side where they can kind of give a little note as to what happened, or she was angry, couldn't get her to talk to me, just a little quick note. And honestly, we've talked about this too, and it's come up in PBIS that if you have a kid on a check in and out plan and they're fuming and you can't bring them back, don't just send them on without calling the next teacher, or if you're walking them down, hey, we had a really rough time, see if you can get them to bring it back together, talk to you, calm down, whatever it was. So there's room on here to leave a little note, but it's also just good practice in the school. That's part of PBIS is if you have a kid on the check in and out system, don't send them on in distress without communicating. So
So is there a way to maybe work in some positive reinforcement for Zoe if she's willing to kind of process what happened during class with the teacher before she leaves?
yeah, so what we'll do is if it's negative and then she's like, okay, I'm really sorry, Mrs. Mills, I messed up, can I talk to you about it? Because we're going to teach her and you'll talk to her about it too. Even if you're angry, calm down and then come back and make it right. Have some ownership, this is how we messed up, and then if she can talk through. And then just also ask her, did you want to take some time before we leave to try to talk through this with me? Because I'd really like to turn this negative into a positive. And if she's willing to go ahead and talk through it, they can change that to a positive, which we talked about. Because they're not, I mean, there's going to be times she probably doesn't want to talk about it right then. So, or if she moves on to the next room, like Mrs. Mills gets a call from the PE teacher, and she'll decompress and talk to Mrs. Mills, she can go ahead and change that because she brought it back together.
That's really what we're hoping she does.
Yeah,
is
we
process
want
the
her.
situation.
Yeah, we want her talking about it, and instead of letting it spin in here and get out of control, we want her talking to someone about it.
And I would love if Mrs. Mills or Mrs. Rossi could take a photo of it and send it to me. That would be fabulous.
Yeah. So
and then we can track it at home.
yeah, to cut down on some paper waste and to reinforce it at home, the idea was to copy it front and back, laminate it, and then every day take a picture of it, wipe it clean, and then it could be texted to you. So that was the next part of it. So Zoe will get that homeschool connection because Kyra and Benaya's foster parents in the court system have decided that there's some flexibility in the visitation. And so when she has a sheet that goes home that's positive, like a good day, then she will get to, on her little tally mark chart at home, she'll get to put in 3 minutes per report, and that's like 15 extra minutes a week that she gets to use visiting with Benaya. And then once she's made it like maybe 2 weeks or a month with really great reports, she gets to pick where the play date is, plus have her extra time. And so that's all been arranged, and everyone's okay with that. And so it's a really great way to reinforce things at home too.
Is there a way that we can work with Zoe to really make it clear what a good day is? You know, is a good day I don't have any negatives? Is a good day I had a negative but I turned it to a positive? You know, are there any behaviors that are an automatic, you know, this wasn't a great day?
Right.
You know, I think it probably needs to be pretty clear for her.
Yes.
So that it's not just the adults randomly deciding, oh, it was a good day, or oh,
Right.
it wasn't. Like, it needs to be
I
in
agree.
her control.
Yes. So I think that what we could do is we can sit down with Zoe when we finalize this and do a T-chart where on one side it's good day, bad day, looks like, sounds like, and a good day would be I turned my negatives into positives, I checked in and out, you know, I completed my work without being defiant, something like that. So it's pretty specific. I would say the only thing that would make her day completely bad, from my point of view, would be if we had a combative episode where we had to do a crisis call. Because no matter the reason, that's just not a good day for anybody. And that definitely showed us that she couldn't process through it.
I think her being aware that she needs to take a calm down break and being responsible for that choice and doing that would also be a good
Okay, so using her her calm down buckets that she has with her sensory tools. Okay, so we'll include those things into the T-chart, and I'll go over that with her, and then we'll go over it with you before we attach it to her desk.
Sounds good.
And then it'll be a good thing that you can refer to if she's kind of getting off track. So, and we'll make sure you have a copy of that as well.
That would be awesome.
So that way you can kind of go over with her what was good or bad about the day.
Right.
Okay, awesome. So she's gonna be. So Mrs. Mills talked about her ability to show that she needs a break. So what we've come up with is that she's going to flash a yellow card or simply state she needs a break if her teacher's close by, and when she feels she's growing upset or a trigger has occurred, she'll be excused to her cool down area. It's just a little box with some sand and sensory tools, a stress ball, and a little journal, or she can jot down what made her upset. Because that's going to be really important so Mrs. Stein knows what's triggering these episodes and can talk to her about them. So she'll have time to record that. She'll have a little timer there that vibrates, so she'll get 5 minutes for that. And she may not use her whole 5 minutes, but we want to give her plenty of time. And, you know, as things go on and she might not need the 5 minutes, we can say, let's see if you can come in 3 minutes. Or, you know, and if she says, no, I need 5, then of course give her 5. But we can always try to move her toward maybe decreasing that a little bit if she's ready.
And is she
She's
going to
very
be,
flexible.
is she going to be working on learning like how to use those things to calm down
Yes.
too, so that she doesn't just go over there and keep thinking about whatever it was that bothered her?
Yeah. So some things that, because she kind of helped me pick out the things for the box and what she thought might help. So I talked to her. The reason why we wanted to write it down is because we wanted her to know what makes her upset. And then also, if Mrs. Steiner or the psychiatrist knows, then those are things they can help her with in therapy. And she seemed to understand that. And I kind of thought, that's her, and I explained, you close the book, and you leave it in the box, and you get back to work. You know, take some time, process through it, write it, leave it in the box, and leave it there. You'll get to talk about it at another time, but it's almost her way of, it's out, and I'm just going to leave it here for now. I'm going to put a pin in it over here, and at least it's out of her brain. We'll see if it works. She seemed to like the idea of it because I do think, you know, like she said, she'll sit and think about it, and there's nowhere for it to go but here.
And we can also have a journal at home if you
Yeah.
would like, I mean, if we would like to carry that through, that we can bring to the psychiatrist or to counseling
Yeah,
appointments.
that'd be really helpful. And if she
Because
likes
I know
it as
sometimes
helpful.
at night, when you're in bed, if you want a journal or if there's something, that would,
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of get our brains going at night, so that'd be a good tool for her to have. So, so we talked about the routine a little bit. So she has 5 minutes. Talked about writing first, then using tools, watching the timer, knowing, okay, I have about 1 minute left. What do I need to be doing to get back to work? And if she needs more time, I guess that you could talk to her about how you want her to check back in, and just let you know I just need 1 more minute or something. What we don't want is for her to just use it as avoidance. We don't want her to sit there and stew, rather than getting right back to work. Like I said, she likes school and she wants to be successful, so I see this as something she can use instead of getting worked up, or if she notices she's drifting off and thinking about something. And Mrs. Mills, Zoe, did you hear me? Open your book. I need a break. So let her take the break, see if that helps her get back ready to focus. She did seem to like using the sensory tools. She was happy, and she talked a lot more when she was using them. So maybe that'll help her process a little bit. You can also ask her if you see her upset. I think you need a break, Zoe. Why don't you go right?
She's pretty easy to read.
Yeah.
She wears it on her face. So.
Yeah, you know when she needs a break. So, and then when she does use it appropriately and gets right back to work, she gets a point. So that'll be great. When Zoe has a negative checking her out, she's going to lose a point in her account. That means that she could not process through and turn that negative into a positive. So if she leaves one room negative, then refuses to talk to her next teacher about it, That's going to be a point right there. And you can even check in with her. Zoe, did you want to talk about this, or do you just want to keep going? Because she may, when she loses that point, I mean, kids don't like the consequence, decide that she wants to talk about it. So, but one thing we really do want to do is, I know that she's got a lot going on, and I know that I feel for her quite a bit. I know all your hearts feel for her, but we do want to make sure that we're pretty consistent with the consequences, because I think that consistency is going to be really important to her. So if she does continued defiance, or if she has more than one negative episode in a day that she just can't bring it back, she's going to lose 5 minutes of art time that day. And she, I did talk to the art teacher about this. She's usually done early in art and gets to move on to whatever she wants. And so losing 5 minutes of art isn't a big deal for art class as far as Zoe's grade or anything, but losing 5 minutes of art is a big deal to Zoe. So, it's an appropriate consequence because it's important to her. And it's something that she has more than one opportunity to avoid. And she just uses her strategies. So, she'll have to come to after school tutoring if she also has uncompleted work due to behaviors that day. And we did talk about, you know, this may affect your ability to get to your visitation with Benaya on time or get to art club. So that's kind of a natural consequence for not bringing it back together and getting to work. If Zoe does become combative, the staff member with her at the time needs to call the PBIS crisis team to the room, which consists of Mrs. Stein, Mrs. Raza, the school nurse, and Mrs. Walker. They will be there to supervise, and they're also certified in the area of seclusion and restraint. And the teacher who calls a response needs to make sure that they have eyes on Zoe the whole time. They remove the other students from the room, and they remove any objects Zoe could use to hurt herself or possibly throw at someone else and hurt them. So scissors on the desk, move those, get the kids out of the room, keep eyes on her until the crisis team is there. Just kind of keep her contained. We haven't had any episodes, I don't think, where we've had to restrain her. Not at all. Just so everyone knows, that's kind of the protocol. Just because she has thrown things and gotten very aggressive. So, as far as her compliance training goes, so when Zoe is defiant, she'll be given a 10-second count for this first chunk of time rolling out the plan. She'll be given a 10-second count to comply, and then asked to check her Boys Town sheet, which we'll talk a little bit more about. That's the curriculum Mrs. Stein is going to use, on what to do when a request is made by an adult. She'll be rewarded with a point when she follows through with that and gets to work. If she doesn't, she'll lose a point, and then she'll be asked again. The request will be made, and then there'll be a 5-second count made. If she doesn't comply at that point, that's another time when she'll have to lose. That's when she'll lose that art time. That's her consequence. So when Zoe complies, she'll be rewarded. After 10 school days, if her compliance is showing some positive data, then we're going to cut that 10-second count down to 5 and then 3 seconds so that she's complying quicker. So, her curriculum match, Zoe's current curriculum is appropriate. Her assessments and grades show growth overall until her recent state of crisis. So mostly what's been going on now is uncompleted work. As far as her IEP, we're going to add her behavior goals to her IEP, and that'll be tracked through the data her teachers collect and reported with her IEP goals. We are going to change on her IEP that her behavior is affecting her education, and then we're going to add her other health impaired diagnosis of emotional disability, PTSD, depression, and attachment disorder, and then we're also going to add her medication dosages and the times they're given. The continuous progress monitoring will be done by Mrs. Mills and Mrs. Raza through frequency counts, and then also her check-in and out sheets. And those will all be reported to you.
Yes.
I was gonna say I would love to know what her learning goals are so we can look on them at home also.
Yes, so when she sets her learning goals in the classroom as part of her self-determination plan, we could even write them on her check-in sheet. So they're there with her all day long. You could know them.
I would like to know those too.
Okay.
Ask her how it's going. And
Yep.
Give her high fives and stuff.
Okay, so anytime those change, once she's reached a goal, like definitely communicate that too, because we all want to celebrate.
Yeah,
She's
they
reached
see
a
it
goal. Yeah, and then this is her new goal. So we really want to support that. So far, I think we've covered almost everything. I wanted to go over her her other services she'll be getting. So her related services will be with Mrs. Stein here at school. Mrs. Stein's going to provide 2 one-on-one sessions with Zoe a week. Two one-on-one sessions with Zoe every week, and then they're going to be working on the Boys Town curriculum to help with some of her compliance training and also interacting with adults and peers. And then she's going to also help Zoe check in when she comes to school in the morning. She'll kind of be that first point of positive contact, and then check out at the end of the day. And when they have their time together, they'll go over Zoe's journal that she's kept. We're hoping that with some great progress, Zoe can turn one of her weekly times with Mrs. Stein into a group time with her peers. So, and then Mrs. Stein, you mentioned Boys Town, and then you had curriculum for emotional regulation.
Yes, that's the zones of regulation.
Okay.
So I could know the verbiage of that as well.
Definitely, yeah, I'd like to make sure that all the teachers that are working with Zoe have that,
And I would like a copy of the zones or
definitely.
the verbiage so I can use it at home with her as well. So it's all
The other thing I was thinking was, when we were talking about that self-talk, in guidance class, we do a lot with mindsets and growth mindsets and what that self-talk looks like. So I'd love to send that home with you, because if you could reinforce that, we're already using that at school, that would be a big help too.
Yeah. definitely.
Okay.
Oh, I did have a question about check-in and check-out.
Yes.
Occasionally I have counselor meetings at the end of the day, so I'm not here
Okay.
when it's time to check out. and
Mrs. Walker, could you
I
take
would
care of it on those
absolutely.
days?
I'd be happy to have that up. That's fine.
Okay, so I'll just,
Yeah.
and so just let Zoe know the days you can't check out with her.
Okay.
Like I have a meeting this afternoon or when she's there in the morning maybe, but you're gonna check out with Mrs. Walker tonight, that way she's not surprised.
Just a heads up.
Yeah,
And
and
maybe
so
you
then
could
she'll,
jot that on her sheet, check
Oh,
out will
yeah,
be with
to
such
read
and
when
such,
she
so that
checks in
her
by day.
teachers know where to send her.
yeah.
That's right.
That would be helpful.
Kids and people, we can all forget a lot of stuff in the course of a day,
Yes.
so if it's kind of written on there, check out with Mrs. Walker, then she'll kind of remember and everybody.
Sure.
So if I know I'm gonna have a sub, do you wanna do that check-in as well?
Yeah,
And
let's
we'll
do both
just let
of
Zoe know
those.
and check in, check out with you
And
that
since
day.
I'll probably know anyway, as long as we can somehow, in case you're ill or something like that, we'll let her know somehow. We'll let Mrs. Knowles know.
Okay, and I'll let her know when we go over that we finalized all of this,
Yeah.
these changes, and just let her know also you're going to be having all that communication on
Yes.
what's being expected at school
Yes.
and using the same things Mrs. Stein and Mrs. Mills and Mrs. Raz are using. And then I'll also let her know you're kind of her go-to if Mrs.
Absolutely.
Stein isn't available.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Did we have any other questions, comments, concerns that we need to discuss?
And I think this will help.
I just wanna say that Zoe is really an awesome girl, and, knowing some of what she's been through, she's just strong and resilient, and, I think just the love she has for her brother is super cool, and I'm glad that
It
you
is.
guys are able to support her relationship.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Well said. I agree fully. So
Definitely.
I appreciate you all being here. Obviously, you love her very much to spend time after school with me, spend extra time working on this plan and interviewing, and so I just really appreciate that. So thank you very much.